So, did you know that your brain can store up to 2.5 petabytes? So, that is equivalent to millions of gigabytes. So, enough lang siya para i-store yung 3 million hours of TV shows. Sounds impressive, diba? Pero ganun pala yung capacity ng brain natin. Pero bakit there are still times na nakakalimutan natin yung kung saan natin nilapag yung phone natin, or di kaya yung mga instances na nakakalimutan natin bakit tayo pumasok sa isang specific room. Diba? May ganun ba kayong experiences? So, that is because our brain is not just about storing. Hindi siya storage device. Hindi siya parang hard drive na magsisave ka lang ng file and then forever na siyang nandyan. So, instead, it is an active system that processes, reorganizes, edits, and sometimes erases information. So, that's why understanding memory process.
So, sorry guys, nag-brown out sa amin. Kaya wala akong ilaw. Okay, so again, good day to each and everyone. My name is Siti Sumilalaw, and for today's video, we will going to explore how our brain encodes, stores, and retrieves information. Not just a simple storage system, but as a complex and ever-changing process that determines everything we remember and everything we forget. So, just keep on watching kasi kung magre-rely lang kayo sa PPT namin, feeling ko hindi nyo magigets yung topic talaga kasi I am not confident sa ginawa kong PPT. Feeling ko magulo siya masyado, so sorry talaga guys. Okay, what is memory processing? So, memory processing is yun yung way ng brain natin kung paano kunin, i-organize, and then i-retrieve yung information to help us function every day. So, kung wala yung memory, of course, hindi tayo matututo. Hindi natin makikilala yung mga tao, and even ourselves, makakalimutan natin. Pero, hindi sabay-sabay nangyayari ang memory processing. Of course, meron silang different stages. So, I am sure na alam niyo na tong 3 stages na to kasi simula pa nung first year tayo is ilang beses na talaga siyang napag-uusapan. So, first, we have the encoding. So, think of it like taking a photo. So, if you don't properly focus the camera, of course, the picture will be blurry, diba? So, next, we have the storing. Imagine saving a file on your phone. So, it might be kept in a temporary folder, which is sa short term, or pwede naman siyang sa secure drive, which is sa long term. And then, we have the retrieval. So, it's like searching for a file on your computer. Sometimes, it loads instantly, and then the other times naman, you can seem to find it. For example, pag may nakilala kang bagong tao, and then nakalimutan mo agad yung pangalan nila, ibig sabihin, hindi to na-encode ng maayos. Pero kung tatanungin kita kung what is your favorite food, anong bata ka? So, malamang madali mo siyang maaalala kasi na-store siya ng matagal and then na-retrieve siya ng maayos. So, ang memory natin guys is hindi lang siya basta storage ng information. Remember that it is a process. So, ibig sabihin kapag may nag-fail ang kahit isa sa 3 stages na to, malamang makakalimutan mo yung isang bagay. Okay, next, we have the encoding and the transfer of information. So, bakit kaya may mga memories tayong tumatagal ng ilang seconds lang, while meron ding tumatagal talaga ng as in matagal, like, let's say lifetime, sure. So, di ba bakit ganun? So, that is because not all memories are stored the same way. So, the way we encode an information affects how long it stays in our memory. So, meron tayong 3 forms of encoding as you can see. We have the acoustic encoding, visual encoding, and the semantic encoding. So, acoustic encoding is obviously sound-based, Tapos sa visual naman, image-based. And sa semantic encoding, meaning-based. So later on, we-breakdown natin to isa-isa kung ano ibig sabihin ng mga to. So, while encoding is the process of transforming information into a storable form, short-term and long-term storage are the places where encoded information is kept. So now, pag-uusapan natin kung paano nasustore ang information sa short-term and long-term memory. So may mga experiments na ginawa na nag-e-explain kung paano natin ini-encode at ini-store yung mga memories natin. So sa short-term storage, mas madalas nating maalala ang sound ng isang bagay kaysa sa itsura nito. Kaya minsan nako-confuse tayo sa mga words na magkakatunog kahit magkaiba sila ng spelling. So may ginawa si Conrad na experiment para dito. So pinakita niya sa mga participants ang ilang lists ng random letters tapos pinaalala agad. So imbis na magkamali sila sa itsura, mas nagkamali sila sa tunog. For example, imbis na F, ang maalala nila is S, or di kaya B, and then ang naalala nila is V. So, ibig sabihin, kahit visual yung input, ang ini-encode pa rin ng brain natin is based sa sound. So, Baddeley also studied this gamit ang words list naman. So, napansin niya na mas mahirap tandaan yung mga words na magkakatunog. Like, map, cup, lap, compare sa mga words na almost the same ng definition. Like, yung big, large, wide. So, mas madalas talaga nating gamitin ang sound compare sa meaning sa short-term memory. Nagets ba? Okay, next. Pero hindi lang tunog ang ginagamit sa short-term memory. According kay Schulman, meron din daw konting encoding. Ibig sabihin, may processing ng meaning kahit hindi ganun kalakas compare sa long-term memory. So, Posner also found na may visual encoding din daw sa short-term memory. Pero, very saglit lang. Parang mawawala rin daw siya after 1.5 seconds. Kaya mas madalas talaga nating maalala ang sound compare sa itsura. So now, sa long-term memory naman tayo. So sa long-term memory naman, mas ini-store natin ang meaning ng information compare sa mismong sound and itsura nito. So sa Grossman and Eagle experiment, binigyan nila ang mga participants ng 41 words and then pinaalala. So kapag may pinapakita silang bagong words na hindi kasama sa list pero similar ang definition, iniisip ng participants na nakita na nila ito before. So ibig sabihin, ang brain natin is nagsisave ng meaning. Hindi lang exact words. So Bosfield also studied this gamit ang random word list. For example, animals, professions, or vegetables. So, kapag pinapa-recall, biglang nag-group yung brain ng tao into categories, proving na naka-organize ang memories natin by meaning. So, aside sa semantic encoding, meron ding ibang ways para mag-store ng information sa long-term memory. So, sabi ng Brady et al., kayang maalala ng tao ang thousands images ng may high accuracy. And then, pwede ring ma-store ang sound sa long-term memory pero hindi kasing lakas nung pag-store gamit ang meaning. So now, let's talk about the brain regions involved in memory encoding and retrieval based on fMRI research. So, may mga brain areas na gumagana both sa pag-store and pag-recall ng memories. Example, ang anterior medial prefrontal cortex at right fusiform face area, sila yung tumutulong sa pag-encode at pag-alala ng faces. Pero ang yung left fusiform face area naman, mas focus sa encoding ng faces. Ibig sabihin, tumutulong to sa pag-store ng facial details, pero hindi siya ganun ka-active sa pag-recall nito. So, pagdating naman sa places or locations, ang left parahippocampal place area or PPA ang gumagana. So, mas involved ito sa pag-store ng locations kaysa sa pag-recall ng mga to. So, aside from that, meron ding mas general na areas tulad ng medial, temporal, and prefrontal regions na nag-give support sa iba't ibang type ng memory processing like faces, locations, and many more. So, sa madaling salita, walang isang storage center ang brain para sa lahat ng memories. So, iba't ibang part ng brain ang nag-help or work together para i-store at i-retrieve ang iba't ibang klase ng information. Okay, so now we will move on to the transfer of information from short-term memory to long-term memory. So, when we move information from short-term memory to long-term memory, two main problem arises. First is the interference and then CDK. So, when we move information from short-term memory to long-term memory, two main problem arise. The interference and then CDK. So, interference happens when competing information disrupts our ability to store details correctly. So, for example, kapag meron tayong bagong phone number, of course, inaaral natin siya para ma-memorize natin and para easy-easy na lang ba. Pero there are instances na ang nare-recall natin is yung old natin na phone number. So that is interference. So next, on the other hand, decay. It refers to forgetting simply due to time passing. For example, yung kaklase mo nung grade 1, hindi mo na maalala ang pangalan. Kasi of course, hindi mo na siya nakita. Wala na kayong interaction. So, nagets ba yung difference nung dalawa? Sinong hindi nakagets mag-comment sa baba para masampal? Char. Okay, so next, some types of memory are more stable than others. Okay, so pag-usapan natin si non-declarative memory. Si non-declarative memory, automatic and unconscious siya. Ito yung mga bagay na hindi natin sinasadyang matutunan pero automatic nating nagagawa. Pero madaling mawala kung hindi siya inuulit or ginagamit palagi. Nagiging stable lang siya kapag pinapractice, of course. Example nito is yung muscle memory. So, a sample scenario is kapag natutunan mo mag-drive, sa una kailangan mong isipin yung bawat galaw. Pero dahil sa practice, nagiging automatic na lang siya, diba? Next, we have the declarative memory. Si declarative memory naman is intentional and conscious siya. So, this includes facts like semantic memory and personal experiences. So, sa declarative memory, kailangan ng focus and connection sa existing knowledge para magstay sa memory yung information. For example, yung birthday ng friend mo or yung mga lessons natin sa school. So, for declarative memory to last, it must go through consolidation. So, declarative memory needs consolidation to become long-term. So, ano ba yung consolidation? So, consolidation takes time and happens while we sleep or when we repeatedly recall information. So, there are factors affecting consolidation. First is stress. Pero it can either strengthen or weaken your memory depending on the hormones release. For example, kung sobrang stress ka bago mag-exam, pwedeng hindi mo maalala yung mga pinagstudihan mo. Pero kung enough lang yung stress, of course, parang magiging alert ka or di kaya mas maalala mo yung mga information. Next is memory disruptions. So, may mga bagay na nagpapahina ng memory habang nangyayari ang So, next is memory disruptions. So, may mga bagay na nagpapahina sa memory habang Okay, so next is memory disruptions. May mga bagay na nagpapahina sa memory natin habang nangyayari ang consolidation. So, example. So, di ba usually nangyayari ang consolidation during our sleep? So, now kapag kulang ka sa tulog, mahihirapan kang i-consolidate yung mga natutunan mo sa buong araw. Now, paano natin mapapalakas ang memory? So, dito na pumapasok ang meta-memory strategies. So, basically, technique siya para mas mapadali ang pag-recall ng information. So, example of meta-memory strategies are self-testing. Yun yung quizzing yourself instead of just reading your notes. So, next example is chunking. Ito naman is grouping related information together. And the next example is mnemonics. So, dito naman is yung gumagamit ka ng acronyms or visualization to aid recall. So, guys, maingay talaga masyado dito kasi Ramadan. So, ganitong oras, gising pa sila. Actually, it's 1:18 AM. Kaninang umaga, di ako nag-film kasi sabi ko, later na lang para tulog silang lahat. Pero I was very wrong, so nag-film na lang kanina. But anyways, let's move on to rehearsal. So, from the title, may idea na ba kayo kung ano yung rehearsal? Rehearse. So, okay. So, sa rehearsal, dito yung kung paano natin inuulit-ulit ang information para mas tumagal to sa memory natin. Gets ba? So, it is basically repeating information para hindi natin agad makalimutan yung information. So, merong dalawang types ng rehearsal, si maintenance and si elaborative. So, unahin natin sa maintenance rehearsal. So, maintenance rehearsal is simple repetition. Inuulit-ulit lang ng walang pagbabago. So, for example, may bago kang phone number. So, hindi naman tayo sa phone number. Mga kaingay nila. So, yun nga, may bago kang phone number na kailangang i-dial. So, kaya inuulit mo siya sa isip mo para hindi mo makalimutan bago pinutin yung phone mo. That is maintenance rehearsal. So, it helps keep information in short-term memory, pero hindi siya ganun ka-effective sa long-term memory. Next, si elaborative rehearsal naman. So, dito, mas malalim na pag-process ng information by connecting it to something you already know. So, for example, meron kang bagong kaklase, and then, ang name niya is Alex, tapos naaalala mo siya kasi kamukha niya si Alex G. Does it make sense? Gets niyo ba? So, mas effective to sa long-term memory kasi nagkakaroon ng deeper connection sa brain natin. So, in short, rehearsal helps us remember things. Pero kung gusto natin na mas tumagal sa memory natin yung information, elaborative rehearsal ang mas effective. So, sa spacing effect naman, tayo. So, basically, mas madali nating natatandaan ng information kapag pinag-aaralan natin to ng paulit-ulit sa iba't ibang sessions kaysa sa isang bagsakang review lang. Gets nyo ba? So, ito yung dahilan kung bakit hindi effective ang cramming. Pero nag-cram ngayon. Sure. So, example. Imagine na meron kang exam next week. So, kung aaralin mo yung lessons mo ng paunti-unti everyday, mas tatagal sa memory mo yung mga information kaysa sa magpupuyat ka and then i-memorize mo lahat sa isang gabi lang. So, may dalawang paraan ng pag-review under the spacing effect. So, first is the distributed practice. So, si distributed practice is mas okay siya for long-term memory. Next naman is massed practice. So, basically cramming or isang bigla ang study session. So, hindi to ganun ka-effective kasi mabilis din natin nakakalimutan yung mga information. So, kung gusto mong mas tumagal sa memory mo, yung mga napag-aralan mo, of course, iwasan ng cramming tulad ng ginagawa ko ngayon. Sure. Iwasan ng cramming at gamitin ang distributed practice. So, yung image na nakikita nyo dyan, is an old classification of sleep stages. Kasi before, sleep was divided into 5 stages. From stage 1 hanggang REM sleep. Pero nung 2007, the American Academy of Sleep Medicine nirevise nila yon and kinombine yung stage 3 and 4 into one stage. So now, ang tawag na sa kanya is N3 or deep sleep. Pero since yan yung nasa libro, mag-stick na lang muna tayo dyan. So kapag natutulog tayo sa gabi, hindi lang basta-basta nag-shut down yung brain natin. It goes to a different stages. So, first let's talk about stage 1 or light sleep. So, let's say, sa isang gabi, meron kang 8 hours of sleep and 4 to 5% doon is stage 1 or 5 to 10 minutes per night yung stage 1. So, dito sa stage na to, para siyang entry point to sleep. Transition siya from wakefulness to actual sleep. So, super light sleep pa to, meaning madali kang magising with even the smallest noise or movement. And what's happening to your body sa stage na to? So, first, muscles start to relax, pero minsan, may sudden jerks or hypnic jerks. Yung feeling na parang nahuhulog ka. Ganun. And then, yung brain waves natin is nagsuslow down siya, but still medyo active pa rin. And then, breathing and heart rate start to decrease, but not significantly. And then, fun fact, this is the stage where people sometimes experience hallucinations, like feeling someone call your name or hearing random sound. Okay, next, we have the stage 2, or light sleep but deeper. So, dito sa stage 2, merong 45 to 55% of total sleep. Ibig sabihin, kung 8 hours yung tulog mo, 3 to 4 hours doon is nasa stage 2 ka. So, this is the longest sleep stage. Diba? Almost half ng total sleep mo is spent here. Your body is now in full relaxation mode. So, what is happening to your body? First, breathing and heart rate slow down significantly. So, parang chill mode ka na. And then, your body temperature drops to help save energy. Tapos, yung brain waves continue to slow down pero may sudden burst of activity called sleep spindles. This help with memory consolidation and learning. So, bakit siya mahalaga? So, this stage kasi acts as a bridge between sleep and deep sleep. So, without it, hirap kang mag-shift to the more restorative stages. Okay, next, we have the stage 3. Or yung deep sleep begins. So, dito sa stage 3, meron lang tayong 4 to 6% of total sleep. So, ibig sabihin, 20 to 30 minutes lang siya per night. So, this is where deep sleep officially starts. Your brain starts producing slow delta waves, which means sobrang relaxed na ng mind mo. So, you're not fully knocked out here, but you are getting there. So, sa stage na to, you are harder to wake up. And if someone tries to wake you up here, malamang super groggy ka or di ka agad magre-respond. So, what's happening to your body? First, your heart rate and breathing slow down even more. And then, your muscles are completely relaxed. Your body starts repairing itself. Ibig sabihin, good for recovery siya after a long day. So, if super pagod ka physically, your body extends this stage para mas makapag-recover ka. So, bakit importante tong stage na to? So, if kulang ka sa deep sleep, expect a low energy, weaker immune system, and difficulty focusing the next day. Next stage, we have the stage 4, or yung very deep sleep. So, dito sa stage 4, merong 12 to 15% of total sleep. Ibig sabihin, 1 hour to 1.5 hours siya per night. So, this is the deepest stage of non-REM sleep. Ibig sabihin, you are at your most tulog na tulog moment. So, your body is basically on full repair mode, kaya super crucial nito. And then, you barely move in this stage. Literal na hindi ka gagalaw unless meron kang sleep disorder like sleepwalking. So, what's happening to your body? Your brain activity is at its slowest. Ibig sabihin, pure delta waves na to. Disconnected ka na talaga from the outside world. And then, yung heart rate and breathing mo is, ano na talaga, as in lowest na siya. Para naka-battery saver mode ka na. Tapos, this is when growth hormones are released. Kaya super important siya for muscle growth and healing. And then yung immune system mo is working hard to fight off infections. Kaya kapag may sakit ka, your body naturally spends more time in this stage para gumaling ka. And fun fact, if you wake up during this stage, good luck. You will feel groggy talaga, super slow, and parang lutang buong umaga. Also, this is where sleepwalking and night terrors usually happen. And then lastly, the most exciting stage of sleep is the stage 5 or REM sleep. Dito naman sa stage 5 is merong 20 to 25% of total sleep. Ibig sabihin, 1.5 to 2 hours siya per night. Now, this is where the magic happens. REM sleep is where most dreaming occurs and your brain is super active. So what's happening to your body? Brain activity skyrockets. Parang gising ka pero actually tulog ka. And rapid eye movement or yung tinatawag nating REM is nagkikick in na siya. Your eyes move quickly under your eyelids kahit tulog ka. So, heart rate and breathing increases almost like you are awake. Parang gising ka talaga sa stage na to. Pero, yung muscles mo is paralyzed to prevent you from acting out your dreams. Maliban na lang syempre sa breathing. So, why is this important? So, this stage is crucial for memory, learning, and creativity. So, this is when your brain processes everything you learned throughout the day. So, dito na nangyayari yung yung dreaming, whether it is good or bad, your dreams occur in this stage. So, fun fact, if you get woken up during REM sleep, chances are maalala mo agad yung dreams mo. Pero, give it a few minutes and it might completely disappear from your memory. Char, fun fact ba yun? So, now, your body, wait lang. So, ngayon, pag-uusapan naman natin kung paano ba nag-work yung sleep cycle. So, your body doesn't just go through stage 1 to 5 once and then stop na. Hindi yan parang one round tapos na. So, instead, you go through this 5 stages multiple times in a night. So, usually 4 to 6 full cycle siya. So, every cycle, naglalast yan siya ng 90 minutes. So, if you sleep for 7.5 to 9 hours, makaka-experience ka ng 5 to 6 full sleep cycles throughout the night. Tapos, each cycle has a slightly different composition. Ibig sabihin, hindi pare-pareho yung tagal ng bawat stages. For example, in the first half of the night, yung earlier sleep cycles, your body spends more time in deep sleep or yung stage 3 and 4. So, in the second half of the night, yung later sleep cycle na, your body spends more time in REM sleep or yung stage 5. So, why does this change happen? Sa simula kasi ng pagtulog mo, priority ng katawan mo yung deep sleep or yung stage 3 and 4. Kasi ito yung pinaka-restorative stage. Dito ka nagre-repair ng muscles, nagre-release ng growth hormones, and nagre-recover from exhaustion. Pero habang tumatagal yung sleep mo, dahan-dahan bumababa ang time spent in deep sleep and then dumadami naman yung oras mo sa REM sleep. Kaya sa bandang dulo, yung sleep mo, puro parang puro REM sleep na lang yung nangyayari. So, how does this affect your dreams and memory? So, since REM sleep is when you dream the most, mas maraming REM sleep is mas vivid and detailed yung dreams mo. So, ibig sabihin, mas mahaba ang sleep, mas mahaba ang time mo sa REM sleep, which means better dream recall and better memory processing. So, So, if you wake up too early or like kulang ka sa tulog between ng REM sleep mo, kaya minsan blurry or kalat-kalat yung memory mo throughout the day. So, nagets nyo ba yun? Comment down below sa di nakagets. So, now that we're done discussing about different sleep stages, dito nyo na part malalaman kung bakit ko siya i-discuss yung about sa sleep stages. Actually, yung REM sleep lang talaga yung mapag-uusapan natin, pero wala. Trip ko lang i-discuss lahat ng sleep stages. So, yeah. Diba na-discuss na natin kanina what is consolidation? Sige nga, what is consolidation? Char. So, yeah, ang laki talaga ng effect ng sleep. Hindi lang to para sa rest, pero crucial din siya para sa learning and pag-alala ng mga information. So, kapag natutulog tayo, especially sa REM sleep, ito yung stage, diba, ng sleep na may matinding brain activity and dreaming. So, dito sa stage na to, mas tumitibay ang memory consolidation. Ibig sabihin, mas nagiging stable ang memories natin and lumilipat sila sa long-term storage. So, kapag nakatulog ng maayos pagkatapos mag-aral, mas nagiging strong ang memory. Pero kung nadi-disrupt ang REM sleep mo, mas mahirap matandaan yung mga bagong information. Kaya mahalagang magkaroon ng enough sleep kasi ang lack of sleep or sleep deprivation ay may masamang effect sa memory natin. Just like insomnia or pagpupuyat, pwedeng humina ang memory consolidation natin. So, ang hippocampus, siya yung responsible sa pag-transfer ng information sa long-term memory. Naapektuhan din kaya bumabagal ang learning. So now, paano ba tumitibay ang memories natin habang natutulog? So dito na pumapasok ang neuroscience behind memory consolidation. So again, memory consolidation, ito yung process ng pagpapalakas and pag-stabilize ng memories para mailagay siya sa long-term storage. So yung hippocampus, siya yung may mahalagang role sa process na to. Habang natutulog, nire-reactivate niya yung learning experiences natin and tinutulungan itong lumipat sa long-term memory. So yung REM sleep, connected siya sa hippocampus. Dahil sa stage na to, mas sumitibay ang recall and learning natin. So kung iniisip mo kung kailan pinakamagandang magpahinga after mag-aral, mas maganda kung may enough kang REM sleep para ma-process ng maayos yung mga bagong information. So aside sa hippocampus at REM sleep, may iba pang factors na tumutulong sa memory consolidation habang natutulog. Neural replay. So habang tulog ka, parang nire-replay ng hippocampus yung mga natutunan mo sa araw na yun. Para siyang automatic review session ng brain mo, kaya mas nagiging matibay ang memory. And then neurotransmitter. Kapag natutulog tayo, bumababa yung acetylcholine levels. And alam nyo ba, ang mababang level nito is actually nakaka-help sa consolidation ng declarative memory. Yun yung yung mga facts and knowledge na natutunan natin. Next, reconsolidation. So kapag nire-recall natin ang isang memory, naging unstable to saglit, kaya kailangan natin itong i-reinforce para hindi siya makalimutan. So kaya kung
Okay, next, the organization of information. So ang memory is hindi yan siya basta-basta nag-store lang ng information nang walang ayos. So meron siyang sariling paraan para i-organize ang memories. So, one way na sinusukat to ng researchers ay sa pamamagitan ng subjective organization. So, ito yung unique way ng bawat isa sa pag-organize and pag-remember ng mga information. Ibig sabihin, hindi pare-pareho ang pag-organize ng memory ng bawat tao. May ibang mahilig mag-group ng similar concepts, habang yung iba naman is gumagamit ng associations or iba pang technique. So, understanding how we organize information can actually help us improve our memory and recall. At dito papasok yung mga mnemonic devices na pag-uusapan natin sa next slide. Sure ka, OA. So, mnemonic devices. So, para mas madali ang pag-alala ng mga information, daan na naman. So, again, para mas madali ang pag-alala ng information, gumagamit tayo ng mnemonic devices. Ito yung mga techniques na tumutulong mag-organize at mag-encode ng information para mas madali itong maalala. So, ilan sa mga pinaka-common na mnemonic devices is first, categorical clustering. So, example is sa grocery list. Mas madaling maalala kung naka-group ang fruits. So, mas madaling maalala kung naka-group ang fruits, si vegetables, si dairy products, kesa sa random lang, diba? So, yun yung categorical clustering. Next is interactive images.
So, ito naman yung nag-i-imagine tayo ng funny or unusual na picture para malink ang ideas. Example, para maalala mo yung word na apple at saka doctor, imagine mo yung doctor na may apple sa ulo. Diba? Very unusual yun. So, next we have the peg word system. So, for example, 1 is a bun, 2 is a shoe. And inaalala natin yung mga bagay gamit ang rhyming words. Next, we have the method of loci. So, example, ini-imagine mo na ang bahay nyo and then, wait lang, okay, so next, we have the method of loci. So, example, ini-imagine mo yung bahay nyo and then iniisip mo na bawat item sa grocery list ay nasa iba't ibang part ng bahay nyo. Yun yung method of loci. Next naman, si acronyms and si acrostics. So, example nito is Roy G. Biv. Sinong di nakakaalam ng Roy G. Biv? Char. So, Roy G. Biv, para maalala natin yung mga colors ng rainbow. Diba? Gumagamit ng acronyms. Next is si keyword system. So, for example, ang Spanish word na caballo, which means horse, ay iniisip mo bilang kabayo para madali itong maalala. That's all for this slide.